So next up, podcast listeners, CNBC interviews Pete Buttigieg. So CNBC is the NBC news channel. It is notoriously woke. And I'd say for the most part, the folks that are the hosts there are left-wingers. It's hard to believe, how can you be a left-wing business person? But they are. Nonetheless, they were interviewing Pete Buttigieg. And in the Daily Caller, we have this article. CNBC, we have a clip coming up on this too. It's pretty wild. CNBC host Andrew Ross Sorkin, I guess he has three names. Andrew Ross Sorkin. I'm not sure which one is his married name. I guess maybe he took his wife's name. Confronted Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on the administration's plans to tackle inflation during Monday's Squawk Box. Sorkin brought up the issue of the administration's plans to raise corporate taxes in light of President Joe Biden's tweet Friday, urging that the wealthiest corporations pay their fair share in order to bring down inflation. Okay, same old talking point of the Democrats. You're not paying your fair share. That's why we have inflation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this clip. If you know anything about economics, and I know our podcast listeners do, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, just listen to this clip of Pete Buttigieg, who, by the way, went to an Ivy League. Okay, an Ivy League, supposedly one of the smartest people in the country. Listen to his response from CNBC concerning inflation and taxing the rich and taxing those terrible corporations which are causing inflation. We have the clip, and here it is.
On the corporate tax front, and look, I've talked about how you could raise corporate taxes from where they are today. So we're not so far off here. But do you not agree that these are two different issues? Meaning, if you change corporate taxes, yes, in the immediate term, maybe it will have some impact on inflation. But corporate tax is a long-term issue. You either deal with it because you think it's the right thing to do or it's the wrong thing to do, not because you're trying to deal with inflation right this second.
Well, I think a lot of it is what you're going to do with the revenue. And again, we have an agenda to use tax revenue on things that are going to ease inflationary pressures. But also, we have a very clear contrast right now, right? You have Senate Republican proposals that are about raising taxes on the poor and the middle class. And you have the president's worldview, which is shared by the majority of Americans, that if anybody needs to be carrying more of the load right now, it is the wealthiest and corporations that have become extremely profitable. By the way, corporations also that have often, well, hold on, this is really important.
Well, everybody always
corporations
wants
that
to
have
tax
invoked
somebody else.
inflation as an excuse to keep prices high in ways that are not just reflected by the supply picture and are pocketing the difference.
We are going to leave the conversation there. It is a much...
So that's the conversation that Pete Buttigieg had with CNBC host Sorkin. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, you have Pete Buttigieg saying that we have inflation because corporate America is charging too much for their products. That's when you buy the products that corporate America makes, they're just increasing the price intentionally to gouge you. They're trying to gouge you, ladies and gentlemen. And therefore, what we need to do is solve that problem by taxing corporate America and corporations who make things more. So if we tax them more, do you think corporate America will increase their prices? Or do you think they'll decrease their prices? Let's think that through. Moreover, Pete Buttigieg says when we tax them, we are going to use that money for really good things in government. Well, that's the problem. Government keeps spending. There's so much money supply in the economy, way too much money chasing way too few goods. Okay, supply and demand. And therefore, we have this problem with inflation. But Pete Buttigieg is all in. It's like, nah, we need to keep taxing, keep spending, and that is going to solve inflation. So who would talk this way? Well, someone who is willing to lie about anything, or someone like Pete Buttigieg, who is smart enough to know that what he is saying is really Marxism and socialism. Literally, Pete Buttigieg's solution is to put in price controls on companies, which means, of course, you're not going to have enough of anything. Why would you make anything if you can't make money on it? Because the government has put price controls on you. Okay, I have an example for you. There's a company out in Illinois that makes cell towers. I know a little bit about this. Won't say why. They manufacture poles. So the poles are for utility lines and for cell towers. So it's just a single pole. So if you see a pole down the street that's holding the wires for electricity, this company does that. Anyway, back on the subject. The company makes them because of the input prices to make steel. The companies had to increase prices by 30 and 40%. So if the government were to step in saying, you, Mr. Corporation, are charging way too much for this product, so therefore we're going to put price controls in, you must now reduce the cost that you are charging, or the price that you are charging of these poles. Therefore, you're not going to make any, right? You're going to look at it and go, well, then if the input prices are greater than the price that I can charge, or if it's only like a few percent more, it's really not worth my time. I'm probably better off sitting on the couch and, watching TV. This is what Pete Buttigieg is suggesting. And in the Soviet Union, ladies and gentlemen, and in North Korea, and in Venezuela, and in Cuba, what is it that you don't have enough of? Everything. You don't have enough of anything in these countries because Marxism, when it is in full bloom, requires that it's not worth your time to even work to make things and to be entrepreneurial, because you have the government constantly saying, I'm going to take all of your profit, and because you're charging too much, you're evil, you're terrible. This is why those countries are failing. By the way, this is why our country is failing now, because the Marxists are in charge, including and especially Pete Buttigieg. So I just want you to take this in consideration. This guy is not dumb. He's really smart, Pete Buttigieg. He knows what he's saying. He's lying to you. He's hoping enough people are being miseducated about what a free society is supposed to mean, so that at one point and at some point in America, there can be a tipping point whereby the Democrats completely take control of the economy, of all means of production. The government controls all means of production, all prices, and we have a Marxist society where there's nothing but misery. And we're well on our way there now.